All right, what's popping, party people? Popping in for another episode of Pop Talk. We are the Pundits of Pugilism. This is your man, Professor Nims. I'm signing on with Boston Jared,
What up?
Coach Dave.
Huh?
We are Sans the Casual Ran, but we wanted to pop in real quick to give our reaction to an early candidate for Fight of the Year. This was David versus David. David Benavidez taking on David Morrell in a non-title fight, but what essentially came out to be kind of a title eliminator bout to
Yeah,
kind
it
of
was like a
see.
fake unification. It was like two interim belts that were on the line.
Yeah,
Something.
I don't count it, but basically to see who's gonna fight the winner of the Bivol Beterbiev rematch. And on this fight, David Benavidez came out on top in a unanimous decision that wasn't necessarily that controversial. Maybe one of the scorecards. So he won by scores of 115, 111 on two of the scorecards, and then 118 to 108. So two of the judges had it essentially 8 rounds to four. One judge had it looked like
12
uh,
rounds to nothing or something like that, which was absurd.
well, yeah, I think 11 rounds to one or something, which is crazy, right? Because
That's not
it
the
was a
fight
10
day
point.
yet. That's ridiculous.
Um, but so we'll let Boston kind of give his view on the take. For one, is that Boston was the only pundit who picked Morrell to win. So tell us what you saw in the bout, what surprised you, and then we'll kind of wait to kind of talk about the next step for each of these fighters.
Well, I tell you what surprised me the most. I'm not going to go in any particular order. I'll just go in whatever order I have it in my head. How I watched the fight. How much bigger David Morrell was than David Benavidez was the first thing that surprised me. When they stood face to face in the ring and I saw how much bigger Morrell was, I said to myself, this is either going to be really, really bad for Benavidez or it's going to be really, really good for Benavidez. Because David Morrell looked like he was well over 200 pounds in the ring that night. And when the fight started, I said, man, this might be bad for Benavidez. And after
Mhm.
the third or fourth round, sure as shit, David Morrell just the output just went away. The output stopped. All the movement, all the slick, cute movement, the in and out, the change, all that stopped. And he went to just this. And I said, I, I don't know if he got hit with something that got his attention or if he feels himself gassing out already because the kid looked like he had fought heavy. This is the heaviest I've ever seen him look. That was one. Which kind of plays into the next thing was just the sheer just the lack of versatility I saw from Morrell. It was kind of in a weird kind of ironic way what he made fun of Benavidez for in the lead up to the fight, calling him a RoboCop and calling him basically insinuating that Benavidez was one dimensional, is exactly how David Morrell came out and fought this fight, man. There was really nothing complicated for David Benavidez to do. And to be clear, this might sound like sour grapes coming from me, the guy that picked Morrell. There wasn't really anything spectacular that David Benavidez did. I mean, he did everything he needed to do to get the win, but it wasn't some master boxing performance that he put on, man. There was some real clever shit that I saw from him, some slick shit. I saw him raking that guard of Morrell, pulling the lead hand down and coming around it with the hook. And because Morrell didn't show any kind of defensive versatility, Benavidez was able to land that lead uppercut at will. The uppercut that we both, I think me and Cam both thought that Morrell would establish in the fight, the lead uppercut from the southpaw. It was Benavidez who established his uppercut early and often. And it was just a matter of just Benavidez outworked this kid. And I don't know if it was because of his gas tank. I don't know if it was because Benavidez hit him with something that got his attention and caused him to shell up. Morrell had a real bad sixth round, a round that I thought that he might have got hurt. I saw him grab Benavidez's arm at some point, so I don't know if he was wobbled. Um, but the output just wasn't there. And if you look at the CompuBox numbers, which aren't, it's not biblical, right? I'm not a big CompuBox guy, but in this particular instance, I think it really captured the fight. I think David Benavidez outlanded him 2-1, and I think even 3-1 in the power shots. So yeah, just not enough output from David Morrell. Not enough of what I thought he would be able to execute in order to win this fight. Very one-dimensional. No body punching at all. That's the last thing I'll say. Well, I can get into more stuff as we talk about the fight more, but a lot of head hunting from David Morrell. And this is the second fight in a row where we've seen him almost completely neglect the body and try to go head hunting for the entire fight. And it was just yeah, he got behind at after the sixth round. It was even going into the fifth. I think David Benavidez might have squeezed out the fifth, probably did. Definitely won the sixth. And 6 through 10, it was all Benavidez. And then in the 11th round, Morrell scored that knockdown. And Benavidez came back furiously, trying to retake the round and get the even round. Benavidez ended up hitting Morrell right after the bell, and then David Morrell just took off and just cold cocked him 2 seconds after the bell rang, and with no warning or anything at all, the ref immediately took a point away from David Morrell and really kind of took the wind out of his sails. He came out furiously in that 12th round. And if he hadn't had that point taken away from him, the 12th round might have went a little bit differently. But overall, I think it ended up being inconsequential. I mean, David Benavidez won the fight going away. The fight wasn't particularly close. I had it about 8-4 for Benavidez. The rounds were competitive, but the fight ended up not being particularly close. So I'll end with that. Yeah, we'll get into more stuff as we begin to talk about the fight, but that's those are the highlights.
Yeah, and I would kind of say that my surprise is that for one, I thought that Morrell would do a better job of kind of because I picked Benavidez, but I thought Morrell would come out and do a better job in kind of winning those first 4 rounds. But after the first 4 or 5 rounds, it was pretty much even. And I thought that it would be a little bit closer, but it kind of played out how I thought it would. So we talked about how he kind of like slowed down, but that's just what happens when you fight David Benavidez. It's just that his pressure is very it's this kind of ease of like pressure. And even when he throws his kind of rapid fire punches, they flow very easily. So he's able to maintain that same pace. And then what you do at the beginning is that he's pressuring you, and then you see these shots. So you putting your you putting your all into these shots in the effort to hurt him and to get his respect. But that takes a lot of energy. And the other thing is that he went to the body, right? So he landed almost half of his body shots. He landed more than double the body shots of David Benavidez, and he made a concerted effort. And for what I've seen, he was landing 13 body shots in there, and those are going to kind of take away your legs and your stamina. And and so I thought that he did a good job in establishing that. And then also that David Morrell continued his same pattern of just not really using his legs. I don't know if it's because of the weight, but he would stand in front of he was kind of doing this kind of peekaboo style or this kind of shell defense. And he allowed David Benavidez to essentially tee off. And right, I think that, and we'll kind of talk about it in a second when we discuss the kind of the next steps for these boxers and stuff like that. But it's like, you know, there are like little, small, subtle, nuanced things that David Benavidez does to be successful that are not really flashy or eye-catching, which is like his body. He doesn't, look like he doesn't have that kind of Adonis build and stuff like that, but he doesn't, so hopefully coach get him, but he doesn't, um, to me, he doesn't kind of lack in the area of strength. Right. So he does have a bullying style, which is, he uses his size and everything, pretty well. But, um, I just think that this is what David Benavidez does, and he does it at a high level. He does it to everybody. So let's see before we get on to the next one. Coach, you there?
Yeah, can y'all hear me?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we got you.
We can hear you.
I don't know what happened, man. The screen went black, so I can't see y'all on the screen. So I hope my sound is okay. Everything good?
Sound is good.
Yeah, we hear you. You're not crystal clear, but we
Yeah,
got you.
you're a little low, but we can hear you.
Okay. Well, look, man. Yeah. So for me, and on my end, man, just a couple of things. I think it showed that. Well, yes, it went how I kind of thought it was going to go. I don't think necessarily, when Boston talked about that slick stuff with him pulling the guard down. I mean, that to me, you just had a fighter in front of you that didn't have any problems. So I don't give any credence to that silly stuff like that. To be honest with you, you know what I'm saying? It just the guy just couldn't really perform or didn't really perform at the time that Benavidez was doing that. Overall, though, I think you experience is something. It didn't matter that this guy had Morrell had whatever 130 something amateur fights. I got it. It's good. It's amateur. But look, the dude had 11 pros to Benavidez 29. You can't deny how experience had something to do with this. That's just it. In terms of that, the wars that Benavidez has been in, it just drowned. I think Morrell's inexperience, man. Kid has some heart. I got it, but he never been in there with nobody like Benavidez. Also, Jared kind of mentioned a little bit, when he said, Benavidez, I did what he's supposed to do, but didn't show me anything. I just think this cat was punching in combinations, man, like crazy. He just was putting them 2-3 pieces together, man. That just I think just overwhelmed this kid, man. And anytime you got somebody that can put together the combinations, man, that way and see what is working and keep doing it, taking advantage of a man that's not doing anything to defend it, and why this guy wasn't fighting back and why he went into that shell, hey, man, it could be any number of reasons. I just think Benavidez came into the fight the shape that he was in. I think he came in with his experience. I think he overwhelmed this Joker with those punches, man. And I can't say that where Benavidez used to be always the bigger person in the ring. I still think that his fight style was still one that was kind of aggressive and going forward, even though this cat was big. I think Benavidez fought his fight. We can get into it later on to what I think he can do that at this division with all these other guys. But for whatever reason, regardless of the size of Morrell, Benavidez was able to do what he wanted to do and impose his will. If that was because Morrell was just shelling up, so be it. But I just think you can't take away from Benavidez's experience, which would be a benefit for him in this division, no matter who he fights. But we'll get into it about later on in terms of, hey, it ain't going to be an easy road. So I hope that makes sense, man. So he did what he needed to do. The punches of combinations, still fighting this fight and trying to be the aggressor with a bigger fighter. I think that kind of set the tone in terms of him dominating.
Yeah, and I agree. That's one of the things that I've kind of talked about. I thought that his experience would kind of be a factor in this because he's fought the greater competition and he doesn't get discouraged. Like he doesn't panic. He doesn't change his style up because he's been outboxed before in fights and he does that. But he understands that his style is at some point is gonna kind of overwhelm or overcome his opponent's, maybe talent, kind of advantage that they might have over him. But he believes in his stamina and is able to kind of overcome. And we'll wait to kind of coach gets back, but let's go ahead and start with you, Boston. And so, how do you see him faring against the creme de la creme at light heavyweight going forward? Because that's the only thing that's really left for him at this point.
Yeah, you know, luckily for David Benavidez, timing is everything in this sport, man. And he's coming into the light heavyweight division, man, where it's turning into kind of a no man's land here in this division, man. Outside of Beterbiev and Bivol, there's this kid Buatsi who I still have not seen fight. Um, Anthony Yard, who has been unemployed, so to speak, for going on 18 months now. The rest of these names here, I don't know these guys. I mean, Vosdick just lost. Um, you got Callum Smith. This is real. I mean, so look, the answer to your question is this. I need to see what version of Beterbiev is still left. So 2 weeks from now, Beterbiev Bivol 2. We're gonna see that. I want to see what kind of version of Beterbiev comes out in that fight. Because I would tell you this. I do think that David Benavidez has the length and the hand speed to at least put some early rounds in the bank against a guy like Beterbiev. I do think that Beterbiev will struggle to get past that length and with that hand speed. I think you could potentially see in that fight a guy like Benavidez could easily bank the first 4 or 5 rounds of that fight and really, really, really put the pressure on Beterbiev to come from behind and win. So that fight is at one point, I thought it wouldn't be competitive at all, especially after that Vosdick fight. I didn't think it would be competitive at all. After watching him now, he's starting to get better, especially defensively. He's starting to get better. Um, I think that fight is a little bit more competitive than I initially thought it would be. I would still slightly favor Beterbiev, but look, I've picked against Benavidez twice now. He's proven me wrong both times, so I may have to just pick him off GP. But in my head, on paper, I still might favor Beterbiev slightly. Bivol, that's a very, very different fight. I think Bivol is going to allow Benavidez to do what he likes to do, which is come forward and pressure. And I don't think Bivol would have any problem obliging that. Bivol is content to be on his bike and move. But because of Bivol's hand speed and his exceptional footwork, I, that fight has its own hangups. That's his Bivol is his own kind of problem that you have to solve, man. That's a 50-50 fight, I think, between him and Bivol. Um, Especially given the fact that they've sparred apparently, and sparring is sparring, and some people will say, amateurs and amateurs, sparring is sparring. Apparently, Benavidez did very, very well against Bivol in sparring, whatever that's worth. At the very least, he's got some familiarity with Bivol, the same that he had with Vosdick. So that fight, I think, right now is about a 50-50 fight. Beterbiev, again, I would favor Beterbiev, but Beterbiev's going to have to come from behind and close the show in that. He's going to be down going into the sixth round, seventh round, eighth in that fight. He's going to have to come from behind in that fight. So both interesting fights, much more compelling fights than I thought they would have been after watching the Vosdick fight.
All right. Coach, what do you, we'll just kind of stay on David Benavidez.
Yeah, I would be. I feel Beterbiev was a more riskier fight. Vice. Kind of like hearing Jared what he says about Bivol, and I say that because regardless of who Benavidez fights, man, this dude is going to try to come forward. That period, and I think that's tailor made for Beterbiev, to be honest with you. And you know, I don't know. I mean, we know David Morrell can hit hard, but when he got dropped, what if there was a punch coming from Cock Diesel Beterbiev? You see what I'm saying? So, and make no mistake about it, Benavidez got the fast end, but that boy likes to rumble, man. He likes to rumble. He's gonna try to walk folks down, man. That's just his fight style. Period. And I just think that plays into the hands more so for a strong fighter like Beterbiev. So I think Benavidez can still get him if he plays smart and doesn't fight with pride. Hey, you find out how strong this guy really is and you get clipped or whatever, then really, really do your boxing and try to stay on the outside a little bit if you can, Benavidez. That's what I would hope. But I'm more worried about him fighting Beterbiev than Bivol. Man, where any of these guys go, man, I mean, I think you're looking at the top four people in that division right now between Beterbiev and Bivol, even still Morrell and and Benavidez, and Morrell, man, you done fought Benavidez now. Might take the loser of whoever, you know, that Benavidez doesn't fight between, but just right now you're at the point to where take advantage of where you're at in this division. This division doesn't surprise me at all because I think Boston hit it on the head, man. If you take a look at this whole division, man, historically, it's known to have had, like, I bet if you take a look at some of the ages of some of these cats in here that we don't even know, this light heavyweight back from our man O'Neal Bell, back when Virgil Hill was in there, even Dwight Kwawi Muhammad had moved up one time. I think the 175. It's known to have some older fighters. It's no, I mean, these cats sometimes 37, 38, 39. It's known to have some older fighters in this division to where a younger fighter, can really get in and clean it up. You know what I'm saying? 175 and even the cruiserweight as well, 190. Check the ages of both of those divisions, man. It's just something about it, man. And more so the cruiserweight, but historically, the age of those fighters, man, in those divisions has just been older, and to the point to where Boston had said, like, hey, man, I don't know a lot of these guys up in there, So, hey, he got a chance to really clean this thing up. But I still think those four, any fight between those four could go either way, man. I just don't know why Morrell had a night that he had. Who knows, man? But I still think out of those four, man, we could have some good bouts, man. I want to see the guy start lifting some weights, man. I want to see Benavidez. He ain't got to look like Hercules or Adonis, but you need some strength, bro. You need some serious strength if you're gonna try to put some of these cats to sleep up in that division.
I mean, you think he lacks of strength or whatnot? Because I mean,
Yeah, Cam, he does it. The guy is skin, bone, and water on fight night,
yeah,
man.
but I mean, muscles don't like. If you put like Terrence Crawford next to some fighters, Terrence Crawford is stronger than almost anybody, probably in the 154 and down, but he has a wiry frame. You're like,
He is very, very, but Terrence Crawford is a muscular guy. He doesn't. If you especially if you look at what I do as somebody who does martial arts and who's been involved in combat sports, I always look at guys' mass in between their shoulder blades. So that scapular region. Uh, Benavidez has got no muscle mass on his back, and he's got no muscle mass on his chest. He's got very, very minimal muscle mass in his abs, and that helps him in a lot of ways because he can throw all them punches. His back vascularly, it helps him. But like Dave said, if you got to absorb punches from guys like Beterbiev, um, even a guy like Anthony Yard, who is a big, strong, explosive guy. You
His body lets him down every time.
who you talking about?
Anthony Yard. He's
Yeah, yeah, I know.
he's
I'm saying that,
way
but
too muscular. Oxygen has to get to those muscles, and
right.
he's
But
done.
what if he catches Benavidez in round 2 with something?
I mean, that's just. I mean, if you're gonna bank on that, I mean, that's what he tried to do against somebody who doesn't have quite the bag of milk shape as Benavidez, but when he fought uh the um the Russian that knocked him out, his name is escaping me, but
Oh, Kovalev.
Kovalev, excuse yeah. So he that's what he did. He came out fast, was knocking Kovalev around and stuff. But at the end of it, the muscles got tired. He could barely lift his arms, and he got stopped.
Well, what happens if Benavidez can't keep a guy like Beterbiev off of him because the punches just don't have enough on him?
Well, I mean, we'll see. I mean, that's kind of you switch it to like Beterbiev, who's different than like Anthony Yard.
What any of these guys?
And his shape and build is a little bit different. Like he's solid. He looks like a brick house. He doesn't have these like big bulgy muscles like an Anthony Yard.
Right,
But
but the point is, Cam, that muscles. I get what you're saying, right? Muscles can be a detriment, but the right muscles in the right place, are going to help with your power, and they're going to help with your durability. It's going to help you take the punches. It's going to help you give punches. He's hitting guys with everything in the kitchen sink, and I can't remember the last time Benavidez had scored a knockdown. When's the
And I,
last time he knocked somebody down?
when he stopped your blood.
Andrade. Andrade.
And he
Andrade was
wrecked him. I mean, the thing is, I think that sometimes you just kind of get through a threshold when it comes to to your power. I think that that guy is the monster for a reason. Like he's not Bivol. He's not somebody who's in there. He's the monster for a reason because he wrecks guys. Like he didn't knock out Caleb Plant, but he beat that guy towards the end of in that fight from pillar to post. So I mean, I don't know. Like to me, I've never been that like there should be some type of weight training that's a part of it, but I've never been really big on boxers lifting and trying to get muscles and thinking that's just gonna make them better fighters or anything or even better punchers. I
hey,
don't
well, yeah, I'll say this. I'll say this to that. So let's definitely be clear, man. It's several things go like people will sit here and tell you, you can't teach punching power. That's not true. That is not true. You can teach. You can teach punching power. I would say with Benavidez, this is what I mean. So not only would I say just with weights, and yeah, he wrecks. He comes, he beat the brakes off of you, but even when you're looking at Benavidez, that can do it, I wouldn't even say that he solidly, absolutely even sits down on a lot of his.
Coach, you kind of breaking up.
Seems
Coach,
straight up.
Coach, you breaking up. You might need to turn your video off, and 'cause I think it's a bandwidth issue.
Let's see. Oh man. All right. All right. All
Oh
right.
no,
Yeah. Let me
you're clear now.
this
You're
right
clear
now and
now.
then.
you clear now, but if you
Oh,
turn the video off,
okay.
that's going to help you for the rest of the
Okay.
stream. If you turn
Yeah,
that video off.
So, all right. How I sound now?
you
Yeah,
sound good.
you sound good now. You go. He might as well go ahead and finish your thought up.
All right. So look, people sit here and say you can't teach punching power. You can't teach power. I disagree with that. Right. A lot of times, man, Benavidez, when he does fight, though, bro, he is fighting standing straight up. Man, I won't even necessarily say this cat is sitting down on his punches. That joker just accurate, throws a lot, and he catches some guys. I think when he's fighting these heavier and these bigger fighters, man, I think if he solidly sit down on those punches, and if he does have a little bit of strength behind those punches, man, I think it will absolutely help him. And probably more so than even the weights. I think if Benavidez really sit down and punch, bro, I think that this cat has 10 to 15% more punching power, man. That he can deliver. That he
I
can
agree.
deliver.
Yeah, I agree. I
You
think
know.
that's a different like argument because that kind of goes into like technique. Because with somebody
Yeah.
like Canelo Alvarez, who's not a big guy, right? If you kind of saw him in person, but he's got really good technique, right? You know, when he whips his style there. But if you look at Benavidez, his feet get parallel sometimes, right?
Yep.
So the thing
Yep.
he doesn't bend his legs, right? So he doesn't have so he's not able to spring into his combinations like a Mike Tyson and stuff would. I
Yep.
think that all those things are true, and then he should even I don't know if y'all saw that Andre Ward came to his camp at one point when he was kind of like talking. He seems to be a
Yeah.
good listener. I like that, and he was even kind of asking, Andre Ward about, um, how like how does he kind of get down into his stance and all those. And Andre Ward was saying because he had really short arms that he had to kind of, and he did, when he would throw his jab, it would kind of be like this. Because he was trying to get that those kind of extra inches and stuff like that, but. I think that and it might be good to maybe even bring in like another kind of co-trainer. Like I wouldn't mess with too many things for somebody who is undefeated at this time. But I think that if he was a little bit more disciplined with his feet, because that's the reason that he got knocked down, right? So when he throws his combination, right, he get his feet parallel and then you're basically off balance, right? And so instead of having his left foot in front of his right foot and being down in your stance, it's just it's a solid foundation, right? So he just kind of gets parallels and start whipping those punches. So I would agree on that. And just to kind of to transition, so one thing is like I think that I wouldn't be too critical of the light heavyweight division because one thing is that we have two people who are unanimously in the top 10 pound for pound, and Bivol and Beterbiev out there, like across the board. I've looked at most of the rankings and stuff. So there's not too many divisions that have two people that are in so it might be a little bit top heavy. And I think that, so this is my notion. I think that Beterbiev is on the cusp of being one of the top fighters in the world right now. So he's like he's getting votes now for pound for pound, and I think we there's a lot to critique about his style and other things like that, and I don't think it's a sustainable style or whatnot because he does take some solid punches. He was a little bit beat up after the fight, but for what he's doing and for right now, the guy keeps meeting these challenges. And then even when I'm a little bit kind of like suspect, like to me, because it seems like he can be outboxed, and that if you turn him, his feet get parallel and all these other things. But when he meets these boxers, they look good for a little bit, a la Caleb Plant, but then his pressure, his easy flowing, I think that I was trying to say earlier, kind of like punching style where he doesn't like he keeps that same pace. The only time that I saw him fall off a little bit was against Vostik. Like I think maybe he was kind of
Yeah, he
used to
did fall
that.
off against Boston.
Like he did. I was a little worried. But this fight, you can tell that he trained seriously. He was in shape. And he was super motivated. And maybe it was a strategy because if you looked at both of the fighters, in the build up and stuff, he seemed the one he didn't seem like the veteran, even though they're the same age. He's a veteran when it comes to fight. He was losing his cool. He was all that, and if you looked at David Morrell, he was just kind of like, what I'm saying, cool as a cucumber. The guy was
That
all that.
that came back to bite him in the ass too, I think. But go ahead, finish.
No, but I was saying like maybe he wanted him to, you know, get under his skin to kind of attack him and all that. But I think he's such a veteran of these high profile fights that I knew that even though he's kind of showing his ass, he's going off, what I'm saying, showing that Latino kind of spirit and stuff like that. I know when it came to do what he does when he gets in the ring, he knows what to do. He knows his style. He knows, and then he's really comfortable when it comes to these firefights. But let's before and you can kind of I don't know if you want to kind of add on to that point or talk about it, Boston. But once you do, let's go into talking about what's next for David Morrell, and then we'll kind of put a bow on this session.
Who you want me to start with? What's next for Morrell?
Yeah, and unless you because I think you had a rebuttal or saying or when you
No, no,
thought
no.
that
I
it
was just
kind of
gonna
caved up
say,
bite him in his ass with
oh yeah, the
just kind of
whole
keep that conversation on Morrell going. Start.
the whole nonchalant shit leading up to it, and in hindsight, to me, there is such a thing as being too blasé and being too relaxed, especially going into the biggest fight of your life. And to me, how Morrell performed, and again, this is all in hindsight. It's kind of indicative of his attitude leading up. He comes off to me as a guy that is always joking around and never really takes things too seriously. Whereas Benavidez is the guy that is kind of got that Kobe Bryant kind of competitive drive. Like when he's very, very, very serious, he's always dialed up to level 10. Morel is not like that. And there is some good to that because I think, on the positive side, a loss like this is not going to bother him the same way if Benavidez had lost this fight. Benavidez would be up right now punching holes in the wall. Uh, Morel is probably at home chilling, listening to music, dancing. And that can be a good thing psychologically, but it could also be a bad thing. I think that having that competitive drive, having that, damn, that loss is just I'm losing. I think that can help motivate you in a ways, but I don't want to get too far down into that. That was just an observation that I had again in hindsight being 2020. Now, as far as where Morel can go next, in my opinion, again, and I was pretty disappointed in Morel's performance. I think that they need to start. And again, this division is kind of I don't know some of these guys. I don't know who's on PBC, who isn't in the business, blah blah blah. I think they need to start just on the outside of the top five. Start on the outside of that top five. Work on some stuff. He needs to get back to that Cuban style of boxing. I think that this guy, Morrell, if guys like Rigo and Lara are on this side of the spectrum, the stereotypical Cuban, super defensive, very, very conservative offensively. This guy Morrell is on the complete opposite spectrum. And in a way that's kind of helped him because he's considered a fan-friendly guy. He's an action fighter. He gets the knockouts, blah, blah, blah. But I think he's gotten away from the things that he learned probably as a young Cuban amateur, the basics, the footwork, the defense, the versatility, all that. He's kind of gotten away from that. And I think that he needs to rediscover that and rehone that skill set. So, that being said, I, maybe
Do you like him with the combination of Ronnie Shields?
I didn't want to go there. I was thinking about that. I was talking about that yesterday, man. And look, and since you asked,
I
I'll say
did.
it. Since you asked, I will say this. Ronnie Shields is a Hall of Fame all-time great trainer. He's moonwalking into the boxing Hall of Fame. One of the last few great teachers out there, in my opinion. That being said, this is Ronnie Shields' third blue chip Cuban prospect that he's had. He's had Rigo, he had Lara, and now he's got Morrell. And Rigo and Lara both decided to part ways with Ronnie Shields. Now, I don't know if that had to do with boxing related stuff. I don't know if that had to do with business. I don't know why that happened. But I think it's once is an anomaly, twice is the beginning of a pattern, three times, I don't know. I just don't know. And I believe after that Hot Rod fight, because you guys had a lot of shit to say after that Hot Rod fight. And I believe I came on here and said, I said, hey, if he looks like that again, do not be surprised if you see David Morrell start to look for another trainer. And I think that it's a little bit too soon for him to be abandoning ship. As much as I'd like to see him with a guy like Ishmael Salas, who was in Texas, or a guy like Pedro Diaz, who I'm not sure who or Pedro Diaz has worked with recently. I think it's a little bit premature for Morrell to be looking for a different trainer. Not to mention, he had Bob Santos in his corner last night, too. That's two like reputable, very, very reputable riding skills. Bob Santos, another guy, a very, very reputable trainer. So no, I say you stick with Ronnie for now and see where things go. That being said, as far as opposition goes, I'm looking right outside of the top five at light heavyweight. And you've got guys who I've never heard of before. Guys like Lawrence King, Iman Katayev, Willie Hutchinson, Connor Wallace. John Pascal is still lingering out there somehow, some way. I don't know
I don't know
when
why.
the last time John Pascal has fought. Uh, but yeah, Lyndon Arthur is another guy who that's a safe, feel good fight. Lyndon Arthur is not gonna doesn't have any.
So guys like Buatsi, stay away
No,
from
no, no,
them.
no, 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 no. He
Yard,
needs.
Anthony Yard.
I wouldn't even go with an Anthony Yard at this point, man. Again. I was really really disappointed with that performance from Morrell, man. He needs to not complete rebuild. That's not where we're at, but he needs a reboot, right? He needs a reboot. He needs to again rediscover some of those things, that versatility, that multi-dimensional skill set that to me made him a blue chip prospect. Right now, he's not that guy. He's a very very one dimensional type of guy, man. So yeah, somewhere right outside of the top five. Again, I have not seen some of these guys fight, but Lyndon Arthur is a name that I would throw out there. I believe Callum Smith is on this Riyadh season card here in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Um, that's a name. That's a guy that's fought Canelo Alvarez. That's a common opponent with Beterbiev. So maybe Callum Smith. Jesse Hart is another guy that's out there who I think was gonna fight Benavidez until the Morrell fight got made. So maybe a Callum Smith, a Lyndon Arthur, or a Jesse Hart. That type of level of a guy. That's where I would start with to get yourself back into title contention.
Coach, what are your thoughts on next steps for Morrell?
Yeah, I think I would concur with everything that Boston said. Only thing that I would add is that yeah, I concur with everything that Boston said. But I would from a coaching angle, it would depend on what we worked on in the training camp. And what I mean by that, man, just to be specifically clear, is that if we worked in training camp and I saw him doing all the things that we were supposed to do and he was in that fight plan, I got to figure out, okay, why couldn't you execute after round X? Did you get clipped? Did you get hit? And depending on that, because look, man, you don't fought Benavidez, you don't fought the guy who's now the mandatory for this other fight. I just wouldn't go too far down that totem pole in terms of trying to get back into it, So, within those five, yeah, but I probably would more so go for if any of those five had any of the credentials that kind of like what Boston made. It just it has to be something that gives me some type of connection to those top three to in the degree, be it like you said, a common opponent. So yeah, I say anywhere within the five. But if I could get somebody that was a common opponent, I don't care who it is, that's who I would try to get. But I wouldn't get too far down because the fact that you fought and you was in a bout that nearly made you the mandatory, still go for those fights. Still go for those big fights. I be begging for the whoever loses between Bivol and Beterbiev, be begging for those fights, man, and fix whatever it is that you need to fix. So I wouldn't go too far down the rabbit hole of trying to get back in, and I hope that makes sense.
No, perfect sense. Perfect sense. For me, I kind of agree. Like I wouldn't do a total reset. I think that he
Right.
clearly lost this fight or whatnot. It wasn't a master class. It was just some things that we kind of felt that he could do that we didn't see in there. So it was a learning experience. And remember, this was only his 12th professional fight. So uh, you don't want to mess with his confidence like too much, but I still think that he is a high level fighter. Um, I like the
Yeah.
name
Yeah.
like Caleb Smith. I think that's a as a good fight. It has a good profile. One thing that so let's this is what I may even suggest. So Caleb Smith is fighting Joshua Buatsi at Riyadh season.
Wow.
Um,
Okay. I'm definitely watching that.
so I would take the winner of that. So let go and let
Yeah.
Benavidez take the winner of Bivol and Beterbiev, and then as almost as a consolation prize, you take that so it still keeps your name up in there, and then you'll have a I'm picking Buatsi to beat Caleb Smith, but maybe he shows some flaws. You know, he's undefeated right now, but he hasn't really been tested. I think that this is probably his he did his last fight was a split decision win over Willie Hutchinson, who's not really kind of a name fighter. And then if you go down the list, it is a litany of no namers. So this is going to be a big test for Joshua Buatsi, and I think I have a because he's a British fighter, and then they do a good job of kind of protecting their fighters when it comes to that world class. So I kind of want to see them get right back in there. I think, like I said, he's a supremely talented fighter. I think that with a couple of tweaks, he could even beat somebody like a Benavidez. But I'm actually glad that he didn't win this fight. I don't want to see him served up to a Beterbiev, for example. And one thing, and so this is like because I didn't kind of give my thoughts on the next steps for Benavidez is that I so I think that as long as Benavidez keeps proving us that he is the man that he says he is, that I think that he's going to be able to kind of like will his style against any opponent. I think that he would be successful against Bivol. I'm a little hesitant against Beterbiev because he just seems to he's almost the new kind of hands of stone. Like this guy touches you, and you don't want to see that. And I don't want to see somebody that's as young as Benavidez kind of take too much of a fighting. But I wouldn't be surprised if he was able to kind of make some adjustments and do this and come out on top. I would favor him more against Bivol, to be honest. But I mean, that's what I mean, that's what I want to kind of see because right now we got this kind of six-man tournament right now. So we got Beterbiev fighting Bivol. And then that winner should fight Benavidez, and then we have Caleb Smith fighting Joshua Buatsi, and I think that winner should go ahead and take on David Morrell, and then as far as like the losers of those bouts, maybe they fight each other and stuff like that. But it's gonna make it kind of an interesting year and a half when it comes to the light heavyweight division. And you know, I don't want to see the belts broken up. I like having an undisputed champion. This kind of interim. That's why I didn't even kind of mention these interim belts that were up for grabs. These are kind of trinkets in my mind, but. Um, we'll see. I think that if he can pull through, I'm a fan of Benavidez, even though he's supremely flawed. I think that he has an opportunity. If he goes out and does a number on the winner of Bivol, Beterbiev, then we're talking one of our generation's best fighters. This is somebody that Canelo wanted no part of. This is something that the Charlo brothers, even though that name doesn't have as much relevance as it did before, wanted no part of. So at some point, I think we got to give this guy some credit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
No, I agree,
we've been
bro.
giving him credit. We've been giving him credit. Yeah,
Willie, you've been a little you've been harsh with your critique, I think
no,
sometimes.
I just look. I mean, I said the same thing that you said. I mean, you said that he was limited, he's flawed. I've
Yeah.
said the same thing, and the guys who I've picked to beat him, I thought weren't as flawed. But it's like,
They've been your guys too, because they were Morrell. You was one of the first ones that was kind of,
oh yeah, yeah,
trouble.
no,
Man,
Like that,
absolutely.
like
he
that's
was
been your
all
guy.
on Morrell's strap.
Yeah.
Yes,
I didn't want to
Morrell
say it.
gon'
I didn't
Mor-
want to say it. I didn't want to say it.
Morrell gonna stop him. Morrell. I'm like, man, just put a ring on Morrell's finger. Won't y'all run off
Yeah,
into the
man.
sunset?
Yeah, and look, despite him disappointing me in this fight, and it really was. I mean, that was really disappointing to see. I still think he's got the highest ceiling out of any of these guys in the division, but he's again, and I'm repeating myself here. He's got to get back to basics. There was a lot of opportunities in this fight, man, that he just didn't take advantage of. Now, people will say that that was a lack of experience. And in hindsight, look, I, I'm not in a position to argue with that statement, right? It could have been a number of things. Experience could have been it. But man, there were a lot of opportunities in this fight, man. They're gonna go back and they're gonna watch this fight and they're gonna say, man, what if, man? And a lot of it was, you got to give credit to Benavidez, but a lot of it was just stuff that I don't know if they just didn't work on. I don't know. I don't know. I don't
Well,
know.
maybe,
I don't
man,
know.
because a lot of times,
I,
he kind of. It seems like when fighters fight him, they have their worst performance, right? So maybe it's something that he's
who
doing.
talking about Benavidez?
Yeah, Benavidez. Because
Oh well,
when
yeah,
he
you got to
fought,
give that credit to Benavidez. Yeah, it's not a coincidence.
yeah, because when
I,
he fought on Andrade, it's like I've never seen him take that much punishment. That guy was getting
yeah,
knocked
well,
down.
but look, Andre was always he's the guy moving up from 154, right? And in hindsight, I think this win over Morrell, despite Morrell having only 10 fights, to me, that's that's a more credible win, especially at 175, than an Andrade win at 168 pounds.
Yeah,
That's just me. Uh,
yeah. I
but
mean,
yeah,
there's an argument there. Yeah,
this guy Buatsi, I've never seen this guy Buatsi fight. I'm gonna go watch some of his fights. There are a
he's
bunch of names on here that we didn't mention. I've got boxing scene pull up. Some of these guys I've never seen fight. Like this guy Michael Eifert is number one in the IBF. There's another guy named Connor Wallace who's number two in the IBF. Albert Ramirez is number two in the WBA. He's also number two in the WBC and three in the WBO. Zach Parker, remember that name? That was a guy, the Frank Warren guy that lost to John Ryder, sprained his pinky against John Ryder and had to quit. He's somehow back in the number four position in the WBO. Hot
that's
Rod is still
BS.
there at five. So there are other guys out there. Buatsi I don't know that Buatsi fighting Morrell is kind of a backward step. He's in position to get a shot at this at undisputed
Oh,
potentially, right?
he's not ready to me. He's to me he's
Well,
his style is kind of crude. I think that, but
well,
we want to see right there.
like I said last night to the guys who I was out with, the rankings say otherwise. If you're number two or you're number one in the rankings, then you're ready. You shouldn't be where you are in the rankings if you're not ready. So you number one, you gotta step up and you gotta fight that fight because there are other guys that want that spot, you know. So, but maybe you're right. And I haven't seen Buatsi. Maybe Buatsi is a business wise is a smart fight for Morrell. I would just hate to see him. Let's say that Buatsi is what you're saying. He's a crude, kind of limited guy. I would hate for Morrell to go in there and do what he's been doing the last two fights, get a win, then go into the next fight doing the same shit and then lose and not have improved, not have worked on some of those flaws, not have corrected some of those mistakes that he's been making over the last few fights. That's why I think taking a step back fight or two to work on those things is more to his better. It's more to his long term benefit than taking an opportunistic shot at a guy who you're describing to me as crude in Buatsi.
Yeah, I mean,
That's just going to give the
I think
guy a
watching
false sense
like
of
watch.
confidence.
I would watch his fights, man. I think you come out and I think that Morrell would look like the next great thing against Buatsi. I think that he would pick him apart, and I think that he would look good. I think he would look
Okay,
good.
but see, but that's fool's gold to me. If you look good against a limited guy, that's not in your to me that's not in this kid's best interest right now. He needs to look good against a legitimate guy. I would say even go in again and fight Hot Rod again and see how you do against Hot Rod before you would do that. To me is going to be a better barometer. That's going to be a more meaningful fight for him than fighting this guy. You're telling me this guy Buatsi
No, but he's got like
is
you
kind of
said
a cherry.
yourself. You said he's got ranking and all this other stuff like that. I think
You're right.
he needs to get his confidence up and he needs to work on some things you know at the same time and but at this but I think also he needs to keep his name in the mix. I don't want to he's
That's true.
going
Yeah, man. Yeah,
he's
yeah.
not going any
Don't go back and fight somebody you already fought. That's no, no, man. That's not a good move. Don't go back and fight somebody you already fought.
But don't you need this guy to get better? I mean, I know you guys only
But
saw
that's what
bits and
training and
pieces of the fight.
sparring is for, though. That's what training and sparring is for, man. You got to be able to walk and chew gum in this sport, man. Coming from both a promoter and a coaching angle, bruh. Dude, that's why I'm saying, I don't know what was going on in that fight plan, but I would find out why you didn't execute what it is that we're supposed to execute. You know what I'm saying? But to fight somebody you already fought before, bro, yeah, man, you're wasting your time. You're wasting your time. You're
All
wasting your
right.
time. And I'm gonna tell you, look, I'm gonna go on record, right? I'm gonna go on your record right now and say what's gonna happen. Boston, he had, you look, Benavidez did his thing. But where the hater gonna come out in Boston is that he gonna take a look at some of these cats up in there, and he gonna find the next great hope that's gonna destroy Benavidez. He gonna find them, dog.
No, there's no need for me to find anybody. I mean, Beterbiev is always the guy. And look, I've picked Benavidez to beat guys. I've picked him to lose against certain guys. I'm not really invested. Look, when it comes to Andrade, that's different because I know some of those guys and I'm personally, so that's different. But
Well,
Morrell, I'm not.
Andrade and Morrell, you pick. So that's two guys that you said gonna light this joker up.
Yeah. No, I picked him, and I said before, I said Benavidez has proved me wrong twice. But I call the fights how I see them. I'm not gonna just pick Benavidez because whatever, because he's the Mexican monster, or because Mike Tyson. I look at what Benavidez brings to the ring, the skills, the attributes. I look at what the other guy brings to the ring, and I pick based off of that. I have no vested interest in watching Benavidez win or lose. That doesn't doesn't do anything for me. I call the fight. I call the fights how I see it. I'm not looking for Benavidez to lose. I got no way. Doesn't do anything for me. You know.
You know,
I said,
you praying on his downfall. No, I was joking. No,
yeah,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
hey,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
hey.
Hey, well, look, as risky as it may be, let me go on the record right now and say, uh, Benavidez gonna beat both of them, Bivol
Ooh,
and Beterbiev.
You got him
Now,
picked
I
to beat
already
both of
told
those
y'all
guys.
I already told y'all which one I'm more worried about. But let me go on record right now to say Benavidez gonna beat both of them.
You're not gonna at least wait and see how these guys look in a couple weeks.
I'm so that 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 prediction was literally based off of how much I've seen all three of them fight.
yeah.
Oh, okay, all right.
But you're right. You're right. I give you that. But I'm just going historically, and the main caveat is I would prefer him fight Bivol over Beterbiev, to be honest with
I would too, but
Better,
I would too. I
Beterbiev's
would too.
40, man. Eventually, he's a well-preserved 40.
He
I
is.
just, I just don't know how
He
much
is.
longer he's
He
going to be
he
able to continue.
he.
Benavidez is 28.
Yeah.
He's going right into his physical prime right now, and Beterbiev, as much of a phenom and kind of an anomaly as he is, 40 is 40. I don't care who you are, what sport, what profession you're in. 40 is 40. So that ain't, that's not far-fetched. That's not far-fetched seeing him beat, especially now.
Yeah.
A year ago, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, that wouldn't have been a close fight. It better be would have stopped this kid. But like I said before, different fight now.
you. I didn't know he was 40 years old.
Well,
Yeah.
let's see.
I didn't know
Wait,
he was
let's
40
check.
years old. Yeah,
He's up
Let's
there.
that that
He's
goes to
let,
my that goes to my point, man. What I was telling y'all about those divisions, bro.
let's take a look and see. I don't want to misinform I don't
if
want to
he, yeah. I mean,
misinform the public here.
he's there. He's exactly 40 years old.
He's exactly 40 years old.
He
He
turned
turned 40,
40 on
40
the
last week.
21st.
He turned 40 last week.
Hey, pick. Let's just do this real quick. Pick any name in the top 10 in that division, right? Try to see if you can find out that person's age. Whether it's maybe somebody you don't even know.
I mean, Yard is a young guy, and Callum Smith is a young guy, and Buatsi, I believe, also is a young guy. But I agree with you, Dave. Historically, those have
Yeah.
been the
Okay.
old, and you know what? I feel like, especially at light heavyweight, cruiserweight, is where you see a lot of these amateur guys, a lot of these Eastern European amateurs. That's where you normally see those guys gravitate to, and those guys
Yeah.
usually they're fighting
Yeah.
in the amateurs until they're into their
Yeah.
late 20s, early 30s. Then they
And,
turn pro, and you've got, yeah, and that's when you've got these guys
Okay.
like
Yeah.
this guy like Sharabuddin Atayev at number 4 in the WBA. Never heard of this guy before, but I can almost guarantee you he's from somewhere in the stands, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan. He's got 320 amateur fights, and he's got probably single digit pro fights, and he's probably 32 years old.
Mm.
yeah, and like Yard's got some mileage, and he's not that young. He's 33, and Yard
I
got
didn't know he was that. Wow. Okay.
and
Yeah,
he
hey,
like
man.
he got yeah. He's been stopped a couple of times, maybe maybe in a few times. So he's got a little mileage on him. But what I said, we're running a little bit long, but we
Okay.
wanted to make sure that we got this content out there. But we're gonna go ahead and wrap this up. But we should be
Yeah.
getting back to you with some more footage this week and everything. But we also want to reiterate that so Coach, you did get paid for your bet, right?
No,
Oh,
I don't know. He hasn't told me yet. Just shoot
I,
me a text. I'll make sure you get I'll make sure you get your money.
All right, good.
I got you. And
No,
wow,
but you will have plenty
Atayev.
of time to get that back because this is going to be an exciting boxing year coming up. This spring has started off well, and we're going to be bringing you, like we said, the most erudite boxing commentary on the internet. Make sure that you hit that like and subscribe button. This is your man, Professor Nils. I'm signing off for Boston Jared.
Peace.
Coach Dave.
Oh.
We are Sands of Casual Ran. We are the Pundits of Pugilism, and we are signing off. Peace.
Peace.
Hey.